Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel, and in this series of videos I'm going to take you through the steps that I went through to build my Ferrari F430 Replica. Stay tuned! So I decided my next job was to have a go at the mechanism used by the pods. These are arrowed in the picture here, and what these are used for, they just close up the gap in the rear deck when you actually have the roof down. When you want to put the roof up, then you lift up the rear deck, tuck these pods underneath, and then that allows the roof to come through the open gap, as you'll see later on. So the first job is to mount this bracket that comes in the kit, and this has two welded threads in place, and those threads go through the holes in the rear deck and are held in place with a couple of lock nuts. Next, I bolted on a similar bracket that doesn't have threads back to back to the first bracket, like so. I then bolted on the supplied adjustable spring hinge to that bracket. And then, after lining up and drilling holes through the fiberglass, bolted the pod to the spring hinge. I then close the deck and just see whether the actual pod comes close to the roll bar cover, which is the part on the left there in white. And as you can see, it wasn't far off. I'm not to worry because there's loads of adjustment on these brackets, so it's fine. Next to fit was the pod retaining catch. So this is bolted, as you can see, and what happens is when you push the pod underneath, this catch locks them in a position and keeps them locked out of the way so they don't interfere with the roof mechanism. I found with them installed as I'd done, I could not get the pods to latch in the curled up position. So basically what I need to do is take off the latch here, as you can see here, and put a couple of great big nuts in between to just move it out the way a little bit. That then allowed the pods to nicely latch in to the hidden position as seen here. So that you can actually leave the roof in the up position when you take the car to paint, because the roof's going to be fitted at the very end. You need to cut off the existing MR2 roof as shown here. Now with the rear deck just laid on, the rear frame and the pods in place and in the hidden position and the roof up, you can see that this all nicely fits together. Next, it was time for a little bit of work on the roll bar cover. So this piece sits just in front of the rear deck and just basically behind your head. And in those holes you can see the two holes on the left have a little hoop for a roll bar, as do the two holes on the right. So obviously what we need to do is cut those holes out. Using a hole saw, as you can see on the drill there, I made rough cuts as can be seen. What I'm going to do is use a nice rounded file to make these much smoother and much closer to the size that they should be. And here you can see one of the holes after filing and making to the correct size. And in this photo you can see how all three parts fit nicely together, starting with the rear deck, pod, and the roll bar cover. Next job was to bond on the petrol filler housing. If you remember this from a couple of videos back, where we took the Sierra petrol flap and fitted inside the moulding that you get in the kit. This is now ready to be bonded inside the rear quarter. Now here it is, secured in place until the bonding goes off. Next, I decided to play with the rear diffuser. So this comes, as you can see, but the four fins are individual and need bolting on. So first of all, I'm just lined up the fins and make sure they're all in the correct orientation and look good. fittings in place using tech screws from the underside of the diffuser. Here you can see the top heads of the tech screws from underneath the diffuser. Also, whilst trial fitting the diffuser to the car, I noticed that it was just slightly catching on the exhaust, so I've shaded a bit in red there. And that part shaded in red will just need to be removed before I do the final fit. And here's a diffuser fitted to the car. But you can see that the exhaust stands out a mile because it's silver. So I decided that I'm going to take it back off and blacken up the exhaust. Here's the exhaust, nicely painted with some heat resistant black paint. And with the diffuser back in place, you can now hardly see the exhaust. There will also be a piece of mesh fitted into that cap as well, so you won't see the exhaust at all when it's completed. So next it's time for a bit of bonding again, and this time I'm going to look at bonding the front clip into place. So first of all, we need to get the front clip lined up with the door, and as you can see here, the gap is pretty good. I mean, a lot of this will be fixed when it goes to the paint shop, but you do need to leave a fairly large gap here because that door has to open into the wing. I looked at a few of the people who have made these cars, I looked at their gaps and they were quite large gaps, so I think that's just standard for these cars. You must make sure that when you open the door that the actual door skin goes underneath the front wing like it does here. What might need to be done is some of the thickness taken off that lip there where you can almost see that door is touching. So I managed to get this open without scraping on the wing on the driver's side. And also on the passenger side. This photo is looking inside the front clip from the driver's door side, and you can see there I put a tech screw between the moulding on the front clip and the A-pillar. So once I've got the clip happy to the position I need it to be, level with the doors, I then fix it with the tech screw in that position. And here is a front clip all now bonded into position. Doesn't look any different to when it's not bonded in really. What you can see here is a brace bar that connects the left and right front wings to keep them in the exact position they should be for when you're bonding them on. When this is all done and dried, what you do is then you can cut out that brace bar. That leaves it perfectly sized to take the bonnet. So next, and hopefully the final piece of bonding that I need to do on this car, was bonding the rear deck onto the rear deck frame. And this needs quite a bit of alignment because you need to get the rear back of the deck level with the back of the car. You need to get the height right so that the lines run nicely from that curve. You can see where the high level brake light goes and it drops down. That needs to be level with the rear lights of the car. You need to get the gap left and right correct as well, so it sits central inside between the two rear quarters. You also need to make sure these front parts of the rear deck do not catch on the doors when they open and they close, and they leave ample gap between the rear deck and the rear quarters. Once you're happy with all the alignment, it's then a matter of placing the bond onto the rear frame and placing the rear deck on the frame. I was just a little bit wary that I hadn't got it fully and completely lined up, so basically what I've done here, I've dabbed a few bits of Sikaflex onto the rear frame, and I will put the rear cover on top of this, and if there's any problems, it shouldn't be a big job to actually remove it and then get it put into the right position. And if it's all good, then I'll inject some more Sikaflex into any areas I can get it into. frame is then laid in place with markers to keep the gaps and also some weights just to hold it in place while the Sikaflex goes off. And there you go, hope you enjoyed that, and if you did then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more videos like this. Until the next time, take care.